The Shadow of Solitude. In a quaint, historic town in New England, where old wooden houses with wide porches and large windows gazed out onto tree-lined streets, lived a woman named Eleanor Vance. At 70, Eleanor inhabited not just a house steeped in time, but also a shell of memories and profound silence. That house, once the vibrant heart of a loving family, now stood as a mute witness to loss. Her husband, Robert, had passed away 5 years prior after a prolonged illness, leaving an emptiness that seemed impossible to fill. Her 2 children, Sarah and David, were grown, established in different states, their lives as bustling and distant as the stars in the night sky. Each morning, Eleanor awoke not to the chime of an alarm clock, but to a chilling emptiness. She found temporary solace in old routines, brewing a strong cup of coffee, turning the pages of a newspaper filled with unfamiliar headlines, or meticulously tending to the small garden behind her home. That garden, once a shared joy between her and Robert, now held a melancholic beauty, mirroring her own soul. Every rose, every lavender bush seemed to whisper tales of a lost past, making the longing for Robert and the absence of her children grow ever stronger, weighing on her heart like an invisible stone. One afternoon, when Sarah called, her voice was laced with worry and haste, mixed with the urban din of her busy life. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I can't visit this week. My job's incredibly demanding right now, and the kids are down with a cold." Eleanor, though her heart ached, forced back a sigh, managing a strained smile through the phone. "It's okay, dear. I'm fine. You just focus on your work and the grandkids. I understand." Hanging up, Eleanor felt a profound and bitter sorrow wash over her. She looked out the window, watching the maple leaves fall, swirling in the wind before touching the ground. Each falling leaf felt like a stark reminder of time's relentless march, taking away everything she cherished and leaving her alone, isolated in life's ceaseless flow. She wondered if she too was slowly becoming a withered leaf, destined to fall from the tree of life and drift into oblivion. A glimmer of light from an old friend and a wake-up call. A few days later, as Eleanor sat forlornly on the porch armchair, lost in heavy thoughts, a familiar old pickup truck pulled up to her curb. It was Arthur Jenkins, Robert's longtime neighbor and one of the few remaining people in town with whom Eleanor felt she could truly connect. Arthur, a lanky man, with neatly combed silver hair and twinkling, experienced eyes, had also lost his wife several years ago. He walked up, carrying a basket of ripe apples freshly picked from his orchard. "Eleanor," Arthur said, his voice warm and full of empathy, "I've seen you sitting here, looking down for a few days now. Is something bothering you?" Eleanor sighed, unable to hide the emotions welling up inside her. She shared her feelings of loneliness, of being left behind, of the hopelessness she felt facing a future without Robert by her side. Arthur listened patiently, his eyes reflecting understanding. When Eleanor finished, he nodded slowly. "I understand, Eleanor. I've been through it myself. It feels like a boat adrift in a vast ocean, with no shore in sight. But have you ever considered, if the day comes when you can no longer care for yourself, what will you do? When your health declines, when things get harder, who will you rely on?" Arthur's question struck Eleanor like a bolt of lightning, tearing through the dark clouds in her mind. She had never seriously considered that, not to such a deep extent. She had always assumed she could manage on her own, that relying on others was a burden. But Arthur's words touched her deepest fear, the fear of becoming frail and dependent, of becoming a burden to her own children. In that very moment, a seed of change began to sprout in Eleanor's soul. She couldn't continue to wallow in sadness and passivity. She needed a plan, new steps and a resurgence. Arthur's words ignited a powerful will within Eleanor, a small flame that began to burn brighter. She realized she couldn't continue to drown in sorrow and the monotonous repetition of meaningless days. She began with a concrete and practical action, reorganizing her entire financial situation. She spent days reviewing her savings, insurance, and living expenses, ensuring she had enough resources to cover her life and cope with unexpected situations in the future. This was not merely a financial act but an act of self-empowerment, reclaiming control over her own life. Next, Eleanor sought to reconnect with the outside world. one step at a time. She enrolled in a watercolor painting class at the local community center, a dream she'd always harbored since her youth, but never had the time to pursue. Initially, she felt awkward, timid among strangers, but gradually she began to chat with her classmates, sharing thoughts on brushstrokes, colors, and even mundane daily stories. She also joined a book club at the local library, where she found people with shared literary interests and stimulating, thought-provoking discussion. Eleanor discovered that joy didn't just come from completing a painting or discussing a good book, but from the very process of interacting, sharing, and connecting with others. Eleanor's mornings were no longer silent and heavy. She began taking long walks in the nearby park every day, enjoying the fresh air, watching the scenery change with the seasons, and listening to the birds sing. She felt physically stronger, and her spirits were lifted. The physical activity was not just beneficial for her health, but also served as a mental therapy, helping her release stress and embrace positive energy. Eleanor realized that life still held so much to explore and experience, and she was not alone on that journey, finding warmth again in a new love. Despite having new friends and new hobbies, evenings in her house still occasionally left Eleanor feeling a profound emptiness. She missed the feeling of having someone beside her, sharing the small daily stories, a warm touch, or a comforting smile. Arthur, who still regularly stopped by to check on her and chat, noticed this. He gently suggested, with his characteristic tact and life experience, "Eleanor, have you ever thought about finding a companion? Not to replace Robert, but to have someone to share life's joys and sorrows with, to grow old together peacefully." Arthur's advice made Eleanor ponder deeply. In a society where seeking love in old age still carries many unspoken stigmas, Eleanor had to wrestle with her own internal thoughts. Was she betraying Robert? Was she too old to start a new relationship? But then she realized that love has no age, and seeking happiness is everyone's right. After much thought and internal struggle, she decided to open her heart. At a dance social for seniors at the community center, Eleanor met Henry. Henry was a kind man, with salt and pepper hair, sparkling blue eyes full of mischief, and a warm, genuine smile. He loved poetry, classical music, and possessed a subtle, refined sense of humor. They quickly found a deep connection, sharing stories of the past, simple joys of the present, and even dreams for the future. After several months of dating, exploring small cafes, walking trails and local concerts together, they decided to move in together, building a new home, warm and filled with laughter. Henry's presence brought new light into Eleanor's life. He was not just a companion but a confidant, a partner who shared every worry and every joy. He cared for her when she was ill, and she reciprocated his care. They traveled together, explored new places, learned new things, and savored every moment, transforming their later years into colorful and meaningful chapters of their lives. Their love was not loud and passionate like in youth, but deep and peaceful, like a gently flowing river, facing loss once more and the serenity found. But life, as it always does, holds unforeseen challenges. One day, devastating news arrived. Henry was in a car accident and passed away suddenly. Eleanor once again plunged into profound grief, a sense of loss even more crushing than before. Henry was not just her companion, but her last line of defense against loneliness, her source of joy and hope. She felt as though her world had collapsed, and darkness enveloped her once more. However, this time, Eleanor did not sink into prolonged sadness and despair. The lessons she had learned, the experiences she had gained, and the advice from Arthur and Henry had forged her spirit. She remembered Henry's words on a rainy afternoon as they sat together reading, "Eleanor, life is a gift. Cherish every day, every moment with those you love, and accept that everything is impermanent. Don't cling to what's lost. Live for what remains." Eleanor decided to face her grief with proactive strength. She realized that living alone in her old house, though full of memories, was no longer suitable. She decided to move into a senior living community, assisted living community nearby. This was a difficult decision, but she understood that she needed a more supportive environment, where she could find medical assistance when needed, and more importantly, be surrounded by people her own age, sharing similar experiences and stories. In the new community, Eleanor found not just safety and convenience, but also a true sense of belonging. She participated in community activities, from yoga classes and art workshops to card games and discussion groups. She befriended new neighbors, individuals who had experienced similar losses, and together they shared, comforted, and supported each other. Eleanor realized that although the pain of loss still lingered, she was no longer alone. She had found a new family, a place where she belonged, where sharing and compassion were present every day. Timeless wisdom and core values. Eleanor had learned that old age is not solely about loss and decline, but also about a profound realization how precious every relationship truly is, and how every day is an opportunity to live, love, and grow. She recognized that no matter how life changes, her most constant companion, the one who would always be there, was herself. Inner strength, adaptability, and the will to live are the most valuable assets no one can take away. She often sat on her balcony, overlooking the community's shared garden, where vibrant flowers bloomed and birds chirped cheerfully. Eleanor smiled, her smile now more serene and peaceful than before. She had navigated many ups and downs, endured much loss, but she had also found love, friendship, and deep inner peace. She understood that even when no one is by her side, life continues with its own unique beauty, and what truly matters is to cherish every moment, live with gratitude, and always be open to new possibilities. Because, as Henry once said, those we love will always live in our hearts, and the moments we shared were real and precious, never to fade. Eleanor's life is a vivid testament that old age is not an end, but a new chapter, a journey of self-discovery and meaning. It is a journey of acceptance, courage, and gratitude, leading to a fulfilling life. Even when moments are solitary, she is never truly alone.